To make the most out of our lives, it's important to understand what our needs are. Today, we will look at the broad mental and physical needs of most people, as well as some effective ways of meeting them. You are going to get a lot of value out of today's episode, so buckle up. I want to welcome you to the Metamorphic Mind. This channel is dedicated to people like you who want the world to change and are willing to start with themselves. This is great because even if you don't affect millions of people, you improve the life of someone very deserving, you. So let's start by preparing ourselves to add new skills or find a better balance to our current priorities. The first step is to notice where you are spending your time. Identify and put a name to where your time is going, and notice if they reflect your values and priorities. If you want to spend more time with your family, is playing video games 3 hours a day beneficial to that end? Consider reducing or eliminating commitments that no longer serve you or are taking up excess time and energy. Doing so will allow you time and energy to devote towards things you really care about. Another tip is to establish a standard for how much your time is worth. Then you can use it as a point of comparison to know if you can afford to spend time on the commitments you have made. This also helps you to see the value in being selective about where you spend your time. A skill that is good to practice here is saying no. Rejecting demands for your time is necessary, as you can't do everything that's asked of you. Well, you could probably do a lot of the things asked of you, but that wouldn't leave room for your passions and your needs, which is unacceptable. Your ideas and wants deserve a place in the world. It was Uncle Iroh that said, "It is time for you to look inward and start asking yourself the big questions. Who are you, and what do you want?" This is your life and your opportunity to choose the direction of where you want to go. Starting slow and replacing activities gradually will help you make these changes more manageable. Self-development is a marathon, not a sprint. Taking things slow is going to result in the quickest finish over the course of your life. Regularly assess whether you are making progress towards your goal. Doing so allows you to fine-tune what you are doing. Checking in regularly is like tending to the fire that you are kindling within you. It's going to need looking after if you don't want these intentions to fizzle out. With that out of the way, let's structure the discussion on our needs from the ground up. That's a psych term used to mean working from the body to the brain. Both are equally important. Let's say that I have been trying to do better, like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and I have put in a lot of work for my mental health. I do breathing meditations and grounding exercises. I've been staying off my phone and doing more reading. I have even been giving myself compliments during the day and writing about what I'm grateful for. Still, I can't seem to find motivation. I feel sluggish, and honestly, all I want to do is sleep. So for most of my days, that's what I decide to do with my time. If I'm not sleeping, I am laying or sitting to do my work on my laptop that I take everywhere I go. Being sedentary like this is not ideal for my functioning. My person also needs its physical self to be cared for too. And neglecting it is surely a big factor in how I feel. The first way to meet our body's needs is to go outside. Doing so gives many different benefits all at once. I feel like we have all heard that each of us needs an hour outside each day. If we follow this advice, what are we gaining? A better sleep cycle, which means more alertness, mental and physical health benefits, and a chance to procrastinate. Let's say that this is a perfect day. I have the day off and am otherwise able to schedule my work around all the self-development I want to do. The kids are independent or have someone else taking care of them. All of my needs are met, and I'm free to focus on practicing good habits. So I wake up without an alarm, which allows my body to tell me when it's ready to get up, and I decide to go outside. I spend 30 minutes walking around and looking at the sky. My brain sees the sunlight all around me and starts giving commands to the rest of me. Hey, stop producing melatonin. It's time to get up for the day. Because I don't have all this excess melatonin lying around the rest of the day, I feel more alert and energized for the day ahead. Later, I go outside for the cool evening air, and maybe this time, my focus is on getting unencumbered by the walls inside. I start to breathe a lot better, and the more I come outside, the better for my respiratory health. I can look to the sky and see the stars starting to come through, and I start to feel more at peace. The good thing about getting bored outside is that I can start watching the cats that live around me go about their very important evening errands, and maybe I can throw on an audiobook and learn something cool about squids. Going outside offers me a chance to slow down and reset from the stress of the day. Being outside allows our body to produce vitamin D as well, which is a vital ingredient for strong bones and our immune system to function at full capacity. Sunlight right after waking up, like mentioned before, can tell your body to get up for the day, but it can also help us to feel tired at night. To see the sky progressively dimming is nature's lullaby, slowly soothing us towards rest. Sunlight, therefore, gives our body a reference point to base our sleep cycles around. Going outside is a big help to our sleep and our health. We also experience added bonuses when our outside time is set in nature. Being in nature has been shown to lower heart rate, reduce blood pressure, and promote relaxation. We can become more creative, concentrated, and focused when we spend time in green spaces. And these benefits are from just being there, no running required. If you got this far into the episode, that's awesome. Here's a hidden gem that you aren't going to find just anywhere. Being outside allows us to procrastinate. That's it? That can't be it. Well, yes and no. To fully appreciate the implications of this information, we must first learn what I mean by procrastination. To put it simply, procrastination means downtime away from our work where our brain has a chance to catch up on what it's learned so far. This time is actually a powerful tool that our brain uses to complete tasks effectively. See, having downtime allows our mind to wander. When this happens, it gives space to our subconscious to start problem solving in the background. Maybe we start to think about conflicts we had with our brother and reflect on how we could have handled the situation better. And through thinking about it, we are also able to patch up some of our hurt feelings in the process. Or maybe there's a technical problem you have been dealing with that has stumped you thus far. And you go on a walk and have this eureka moment, and you suddenly figure out what you've been missing. Usually this is followed by swift feelings of, why didn't I think about this before? Because it was right there and you just didn't realize it. Procrastination and letting our mind wander helps us to passively work through our problems. And this is vital for a healthy life. We need time to think and process. If we give our brains no time to process our problems and stress from the day, our performance tanks with each new item we try to cram in. I'm going to apply teachings from the fitness world here, as I hope it will give a better picture of what I mean. To grow a muscle, you first go to the gym. At the gym, you break down the muscle. And that's all you can do in the gym, is break down and shred some of your muscle fibers. As you will notice, you are much weaker right after a workout than you were prior to going that day. You might have started the night being able to lift 50 pounds, whereas now you can't even lift your body weight. Going to the gym doesn't make you stronger. When we go home and sleep, however, that's when the magic occurs. Through the night, our body works as well as it can to heal and fortify the muscles for the day ahead. Being in the thick of our lives is like going to the gym. It breaks down our strength, and we need time to recover and learn from the experience. Going outside to procrastinate, therefore, is a powerful tool we can utilize to help us thrive. Hidden within the last section is the value of sleep. Like I said, it does give us the ability to heal, recover, and reset for the next day ahead. Did you know that 1/3 of adults report not getting enough sleep at night? It's crazy that we are willing to do that to ourselves. Even from your own experience, I'm sure you are aware that days without much sleep are much more challenging to get through than the ones where we sleep really well. Studies also back up this notion. As performance tanks the less sleep we get. We neglect sleep because it's constant in our life. We have never had to learn how to sleep, but maybe it's time to start. Over prolonged periods of time, our risk for things like heart attacks, high blood pressure, and stroke all go up the less sleep that we get. If there's anything you focus on, please let it be a better sleep routine. For a lot of us, we have to get up for work in the morning, meaning if we want more sleep, we are going to have to go to bed earlier. It's possible, and you can most certainly benefit from it. So if you decide that you don't want to feel drowsy and sluggish, and you want to recover more and feel refreshed, consider blacking out your bedroom and setting up a night routine that you are able to follow. A night routine is great because it tells our body that it's time to wind down for the night and acts as a closing to our day. Common routines will include activities like showering, brushing teeth, reading a book, drawing, journaling, taking a walk, and listening to some calming music. Something to avoid is eating 3 hours before bed, as digestion affects how well our sleep is, as well as our oral health. Screen time an hour before bed is also something to worry about, as it destroys our body's ability to give us proper melatonin levels and can also be a source of stress. Say if you read the news or business emails before bed. Each can be distressing. The best practice that I have heard that works for most people is to charge your phone away from your bed. Some people say to charge it in another room, but I don't want to give you any more reason not to have a good night's sleep. So instead, find a different outlet that makes your phone out of reach and turn up your alarm volume so you can hear it when it goes off. That way, you aren't tempted to use your phone in bed, but you also don't have to buy a dedicated alarm clock if you don't want to. Just the act of putting your phone on charge primes your brain for sleeping. You are telling yourself that it's time for bed. I'm not focused on TikTok or YouTube, my focus is on sleeping, and that will act as an additional cue for your body to feel tired and ease your transition into sleep. The next physical component we will talk about is our diet. Our diet is what fuels our actions. Everything from what we are able to think and do. Our food determines what our body is ready for. There is a lot to learn about our food intake, and quite honestly, even I feel like it's a daunting prospect to learn. However, let's start slowly and look at some very basic principles to help us get our foot in the door. The main advice I always hear is to choose unprocessed foods whenever possible. And that's all we will focus on for right now, so that we don't get distracted. So what are unprocessed foods? Things like fruit, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats. Going through our list, filling our plate with fruits and vegetables earns us essential vitamins and minerals. Whole grains, like quinoa, brown rice, and whole white bread, provides fiber and additional nutrients to our diet. Chicken, fish, beans, and tofu are excellent choices for our protein option, as they offer essential amino acids for muscle growth and repair. And in terms of fats, it's important to prioritize healthy options such as avocados, nuts, seeds, and olive oil, while minimizing saturated and trans fats found in processed and fried foods. This will allow for the best results if we want to improve our diet. Consider doing more research on what foods would fit in with your dietary needs. Use this episode to give you an idea of where to start focusing your attention. In order to solidify what I have said, you may want to revisit this episode or look up additional resources on the topics covered. You are on the right track. You got this. But speaking of retaining what we have talked about, so far we have discussed physical aspects of our being that are important for our overall health. We talked about going outside for sunlight and nature. The sunlight helps regulate our wake cycle, meaning that we feel more alert during the day and more tired at night. Sunlight also provides vitamin D in our skin, which is involved in our bone health and immune system. Getting into nature helps our breathing and respiratory system and can also reduce stress. We also talked about sleeping, which promotes healing and acts as a waste management system for our brain. We finally talked about dieting. A proper diet fuels our health and our mind to more easily accomplish our goals. As an intermediary topic that bridges both physical and mental, I want to talk about exercising. Exercising can help to regulate mood as well as to improve our physical health. I didn't mention it until now because I would say that it's much easier for me to stay active for how it makes me feel rather than to look a certain way. I don't need to shame myself into taking walks or doing push-ups because it's motivating enough for me to know that I emotionally feel better when I am active on a regular basis. And speaking to the physical benefits, I feel more durable and effective when I've been active. I can run down the street and catch my breath really quickly, or haul the groceries in one trip without wanting to die. I want to stress that fitness doesn't have to be hard and doesn't need to even include a gym. Look up calisthenic workouts if you are wanting to work out at home. Dan Buettner, a National Geographic Fellow, studied 5 areas where people lived the longest around the world. Within each area, people had to live to 100 fairly consistently to earn their spot on this list. He did this to find similarities in how people lived to understand how their lifestyles could have affected their longevity. I have talked about his findings before, particularly when mentioning purpose. Here, however, I'm just going to focus on what he said about exercise. All of the people who lived to 90 or 100 were active in their everyday life. So just by going about their normal business, it required them to stand up from a lying position and required them that they do some daily walking. Mind you, a walk to the market for food is much different than the same distance on a treadmill. Normal terrain is dynamic and requires our feet and legs to work a lot harder in order to balance and move as fast. I would say treadmills and tracks are good if you are just starting out or you are an elite athlete who needs consistent ground to move on. For the bulk of us, though, walking up and down the street in our town is perfectly adequate. It also helps to have a hike or a trail by you to switch it up and be in nature like we talked about before. Next, we will switch gears and talk about mental health. The framework that most people think about mental health is looking at nature versus nurture. In other terms, looking at our mental health in terms of our genetics versus our environment. I think this framework is flawed, however, in that it doesn't make sense to look at them as two separate things. My genes determine the range of what I'm capable of, but my environment dictates where I fall within that range. If I were the seed of a tree, I may have the potential to grow to 150 feet tall. But instead, I grow to 128 feet tall because I wasn't given enough nutrients throughout my life. In the same way, our biology starts by giving us a random spectrum of possible outcomes, and that spectrum is heavily influenced by the life we have lived thus far. What really hooked me onto this idea was that I can change my prognosis by changing my environment. That's why therapy is sufficient for some people to stop their symptoms. A therapist can't change someone's genes. I don't know of anyone who can modify genetic code to alter how someone feels about their life. No, instead, a therapist gets the client to change their mindset and their actions to better suit their needs. In improving a person's overall quality of life, they can have miraculous mental health growth. Changing aspects of our environment can be very challenging, but isn't it awesome that you can change how you feel by doing so? To be able to tailor your environment to suit your personal needs and flourish because of it. A plant can't do that. It's forced to just endure anything that comes its way. Just sit there and hope for the best. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity to meet my needs, even if it does require effort on my part. To learn more about how to help your mental health, you can teach yourself through videos and podcasts like this. Or you can go to a therapist and use their wealth of knowledge, and use them as a sounding board to change your environment to better suit your needs. Medication can also be necessary and optimal care for different people and diagnoses. Even when doing everything right, there will still be people that need medication to function. Talk to your care team to get a second opinion on what is right for you. People call this final aspect of mental health our identity or our mindset. However, today I'm going to call it an intention that sticks. Our intentions may not seem like it would be related to our mental health, but our mindset and our intentions for the world will decide what types of experiences we will have. I think of my intentions as the force driving my behavior that I have chosen for myself. Other animals, as far as we know, don't have intention. They don't need to intend to do things because their instincts are sufficient to sustain their lives. You are more sophisticated, however, so you need intentions to help you make choices in your life. Depending on the kinds of intentions that you set for yourself, that will determine the flavor of your experience. Imagine that your life is like a perpetually cooking piece of food. Your intentions are like a flavored smoke chip that you burn to flavor that place and time. You could start burning chips of kindness and start making more kind choices. Or burning leadership chips and start making more bold choices. When I choose an intention for myself, that will allow me to change the flavor of my actions. This has required me to think about what's really important to me. If it's not important, it's not going to burn when I ask it to. For example, if my teacher told me to be quiet in class, I may set an intention for myself to stay quiet, but I don't really care about this too much. So as I go about class, I'm barely able to get any use out of that intention, as when I stop thinking about it, I go right back to talking. However, I go home, and my mom talks with me about the day I had, and is disappointed that I used disrespectful words to the teacher. She gets me to switch my perspective, and I'm able to see that the teacher is just trying to do their job and teach me as best as they can. So this time, I set an intention for myself to be a better student. Can you see the difference of why that will work better for me? First, it comes from me. I am telling myself that I want to be a better student, not someone else. Secondly, being a better student is a much stronger aspiration for myself than to stop talking. Better student implies an identity shift. I not only want to change my actions, but who I am. This is one of the ideas that I have always thought was really impactful. I get this from the writing sphere. They said something like, to be an author, you must first tell yourself that you are an author. Only then will you make choices that an author would make. Maybe I normally write only once every 5 days. I can ask myself, is this what an author would do? No, I'd probably have to write every other day, if not every day. I like asking questions about what our chosen identity would do in our situation, as it helps make my choices more clear. Would a compassionate person tip? Would a compassionate person give the $5 he has in his wallet to a homeless person? Would a compassionate person take their anger out on their spouse? By asking these questions through the lens of the identity I aspire to be, I create space between myself and my actions. This gives me time to think about what I want to do, and it also gives me the space to be different from who I am. So consider starting to burn intention chips to flavor your life, or coming up with an identity that you can bounce your actions off of. This episode had many great nuggets of information. We learned that nature and the outdoors are great for our health. Getting out gives our brain a chance to procrastinate and progressively work through our problems. We learned how to prepare for a better night's rest and got a foundation of knowledge for our diet. We then learned that exercise doesn't have to be complicated, but that it should instead be consistent. We also learned that mental health is something that can be affected by changing our environment and our mindset. By changing my environment, I'm able to give myself the resources necessary for my growth. And by changing the mindset that I have and the intentions that I set for myself, I can imbue my life with the meanings that I choose. That's the end of the show, but if you enjoyed what you listened to, consider following or subscribing for more content like this. If you want to support the channel, rate the show and share this episode with someone who you think would enjoy it. Your interactions show the platform that I put out valuable content that is helpful for the viewers. This allows them to feel confident about showing the content to others. Thank you for listening and for living more intentionally. The world is a better place because of you. I'll see you next time. Peace.